Close your eyes for a moment. Think about the last decision you made. Maybe it was small, what to drink, what to wear. Maybe it was big, whether to stay in a relationship, change careers, send a message you weren't sure about. Now ask yourself something unsettling. Did you truly choose that action? Or did your brain choose it before you became aware of choosing? This is not philosophy class speculation. This is neuroscience. In the early 1980s, Benjamin Libet, a physiologist at the University of California, conducted a simple but revolutionary experiment. Participants were asked to perform a small voluntary action, flexing their wrist, whenever they felt like it. While doing this, they watched a fast-moving clock and reported the precise moment they became aware of their intention to move. Meanwhile, electrodes measured their brain activity. And what Libet discovered shocked the scientific world. A specific pattern of electrical activity in the brain, called the readiness potential, began approximately 300 to 500 milliseconds before participants reported consciously deciding to move. The brain moved first. Awareness came second. The implication was profound. If the brain initiates actions before conscious intention arises, is free will just a story we tell ourselves afterward? Now pause, because this is where many discussions go wrong. Some people hear this and immediately conclude, there is no free will, everything is determined. Others jump in the opposite direction. Quantum physics proves free will exists. Both are too simple. Let's slow down. Libet himself did not say free will is an illusion. He proposed something subtler. He suggested that consciousness may not initiate actions, but it may have veto power, what he called free won't. In other words, the brain might prepare actions automatically, but consciousness can intervene and stop them. Later experiments, such as those by John Dylan Haynes using fMRI, suggested that decisions can be predicted seconds before conscious awareness. But even these experiments involve simple, arbitrary decisions, pressing a button with left or right hand, not moral choices, not life-altering decisions, and that distinction matters. Now let's zoom out. Daniel Dennett, philosopher of mind, argues that free will is not about escaping causality. It's about being a certain kind of system, a system capable of reflecting, simulating futures, and adjusting behavior based on reasons. Free will in this view is emergent, just like temperature. At the molecular level, there is no temperature. There are only particles moving. But at a higher scale, temperature becomes real and measurable. Likewise, at the neuronal level, there are electrical signals. But at the cognitive level, there is deliberation, choice, self-reflection. The mistake, Dennett argues, is thinking that free will must exist at the smallest physical scale. It doesn't. It may exist at the level of organized complexity. Now let's carefully bring quantum physics into this. Without exaggeration. At the quantum level, outcomes are probabilistic. Particles exist in superpositions of possible states until measured. Some have argued that this indeterminacy leaves room for freedom. Roger Penrose proposed that quantum processes inside neurons might contribute to conscious decision-making. His theory, developed with anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff, suggests that microtubules in neurons may host quantum computations. But most neuroscientists remain skeptical. And here's why. Randomness is not freedom. If your actions were influenced by random quantum fluctuations, that would not make you more in control. It would make you less predictable. So quantum indeterminacy does not automatically rescue free will. Instead, we must ask a different question. What does the brain actually do when making decisions? Modern neuroscience shows that before you become aware of a decision, your brain is evaluating options. It is simulating possible futures. It is predicting outcomes. It is weighing rewards and risks. This happens below conscious awareness. By the time you decide, much of the computation has already occurred. But that does not mean you are absent. Consciousness may be the integrative layer, where long-term goals, values, and self-concept influence the outcome. Now bring this closer to your life. Imagine you are angry. Someone says something triggering. Your body reacts instantly, Your heart rate rises. Your muscles tense. Words form in your mouth. That readiness potential is there. But then something happens. You pause. You choose not to speak. That pause is not outside physics. It is a neural event. But it is also the expansion of possible response. Freedom may not be initiating impulses. It may be expanding the gap between impulse and action. Viktor Frankl famously wrote, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose." Neuroscience might say, that space is neural computation. But it can widen. And the more aware you are of your patterns, the more flexible your responses become. Now consider predictive processing, which we explored in the previous episode. Your brain constantly generates models of the world. It predicts what will happen. When you make a choice, you are collapsing competing predictions into one action. That collapse feels intentional, but it is constrained by past experiences, emotional states, current beliefs, available information. In other words, your decisions are shaped by informational architecture. But architecture is not fixed. Neuroplasticity means the brain changes based on experience. Every time you reflect, learn, or challenge a belief, you alter the network that produces future decisions. So here's a more nuanced possibility. Free will is not absolute independence from causality. It is increasing the degrees of freedom within causal systems. The more rigid your neural patterns, the fewer options you perceive. The more flexible your neural patterns, the more options become available. Freedom may be complexity. Emergence. Layered integration. Just as renormalization showed that laws depend on scale, just as space-time may emerge from deeper informational structure, free will may emerge from layered neural organization. Not illusion. Not magic. Emergence. Now let's go deeper. If your sense of self is a model, as Thomas Metzinger suggests, then the chooser is itself constructed. You do not experience the brain's internal computations. You experience the output. The self-model integrates memory, goals, emotions, and predictions into a coherent narrative. That narrative feels like an agent. And in many ways it is. But it is dynamic, updating, responsive. Now consider this. When you say, "I couldn't help it," often what you mean is, "My predictive model was rigid." When you say, "I've changed," what you mean is, "My internal architecture reorganized." Transformation is not the creation of a new self from nothing. It is the reconfiguration of neural probabilities. And that reconfiguration expands behavioral possibility. So the question shifts. Instead of asking, "Do I have free will?" we ask, "How flexible is my internal system? How many possible futures can I simulate? How many responses can I access? How many narratives can I hold?" The more options your system can represent, the freer you become. Now bring quantum perspective back in one final way. At the quantum level, systems evolve through probabilities. Outcomes are constrained but not strictly predetermined. At the neural level, decisions evolve through probabilities. Outcomes are constrained but not strictly predetermined. In both cases, structure shapes possibility. But possibility exists. And structure can evolve. You are not outside physics. You are an expression of it. But physics does not reduce you to a puppet. It describes layered complexity. And layered complexity can reorganize. Every time you question an automatic thought, every time you resist a habitual reaction, every time you expand your understanding, you alter the network that generates future choices. Freedom may not be absolute, but it can grow. And that growth is not mystical. It is structural. Perhaps the deepest insight is this: you are neither a fully determined machine, nor a completely independent soul floating above physics. You are a dynamic system capable of increasing its own flexibility. And flexibility may be the most practical definition of freedom. So the next time you wonder whether you have free will, don't ask whether you initiated the universe. Ask whether you expanded your range of possible responses. Because within physics, within neuroscience, within predictive processing, there is space. And that space can widen. Thank you for watching Quantum Life. If this episode expanded your thinking, like, subscribe, and share it with someone exploring the nature of choice. Recommended books are in the description. And in Quantum Reset, we explore identity as dynamic configuration, not fixed destiny. Because freedom may not be escaping causality. It may be evolving within it. Now tell me,